Hey there, folks. Welcome back to Succinct Psychology, or as we like to call it, Succinct. My name is Jaia Hendrickson, and today I'm going to be starting out Chapter 11 in Principles of Social Psychology. Now, again, I want to reiterate, as always, these slides have been pulled from the University of Minnesota libraries, and they have been edited for presentational purposes. All right, so Chapter 7 is going to revolve around working groups, so performance and decision making. And some of the topics we're going to be looking at more closely are going to be understanding social groups, group process, so pluses and minuses of working together, and finally, improving group performance. Although people and their worlds have changed dramatically over the course of our history, one fundamental aspect of human existence remains essentially the same. Just as our primitive ancestors lived together in small groups of families, clans, tribes, people today still spend a great deal of time in social groups. We go to bars and restaurants, we study together in groups, and we work together on production lines and in businesses. We form governments, play together on sports teams, and use internet chat rooms and users groups to communicate with others. It seems that no matter how much the world changes, humans will always remain social creatures. It's probably not incorrect to say that the human group is the very foundation of human existence. Without our interactions with each other, we simply wouldn't be people, and there would be no human culture. We can define a social group as a set of individuals with a shared purpose and who normally share a positive social identity. While social groups form on the basis of human culture and productivity, they also produce some of our most profound disappointments. Groups sometimes create the very opposite of what we might hope for, such as when a group of highly intelligent advisors lead the president to make a poor decision, when a peaceful demonstration turns into a violent riot, or when members of a clique at a high school tease another student so much that they become violent. Entativity refers to something like groupiness, the perception either by the group members themselves or by others that the people together are a group. One determinant of entativity is a cognitive one, the perception of similarity. A group can only be a group to the extent that its members have something in common. At minimum, they're similar because they all belong to the same group. If a collection of people are interested in the same things, share the same opinions and beliefs, or work together on the same task, then it seems they should be considered, both by themselves and others, to be a group. Although similarity is critical, it's not the only factor that creates a group. Groups have more entativity when the group members have frequent interaction and communication with each other. Although communication can occur in groups that meet together in a single place, it can also occur among individuals who are at great distances from each other. The members of a research team who communicate regularly via Skype, for instance, might have frequent interactions and feel as if they're a group even though they've never really or rarely meet in person. Although cognitive factors such as perceived similarity, communication, interdependence, and structure are part of what we mean by being a group, they don't seem to be sufficient. Groups may be seen as groups even if they have little independence, communication, and structure. Partly because of this difficulty, an alternative approach to thinking about groups, and one that's been very important in social psychology, makes use of the affective feelings that we have towards the groups that we belong to. Social identity refers to the part of the self concept that results from our membership in social groups. Generally, because we prefer to remain in groups that we feel good about, the outcome of group membership is a positive social identity. Our group memberships make us feel good about ourselves. Generally, because we prefer to remain in groups, the outcome of the group membership is a positive social identity. And according to social identity theory, a group is a group when the members experience social identity, when they define themselves in part by the group that they belong to and feel good about their group membership. This identity might be seen as the tendency on the part of the individual to talk positively about the group to others, to have a general enjoyment in being a part of the group, and a feeling of pride that comes from the group membership. Because identity is such an important part of group membership, we may attempt to create it to make ourselves feel good, both about our groups and about ourselves. Perhaps you know some people, or maybe you are one, who wear the clothes of their crowd or school to highlight their identity with the group because they want to be a part of and accepted by those group members. While many groups are basically static, performing the same types of tasks day in and day out, other groups are more dynamic. In fact, in almost all groups, there's at least some change. Members come and go, and the goals of the group may change. And even groups that have remained relatively stable for long periods of time may suddenly make dramatic changes. For instance, when they face a crisis, such as a change in task or goals or a loss of a leader. Groups may also lose their meaning and identity as they successfully meet the goals that they initially set out to accomplish. One way to understand group development is to consider the potential stages that groups generally go through. As you can see here in the slide, the stages of group development involve forming, storming, norming and performing, and then finally adjourning. The group formation stage occurs when the members of the group come together and begin their existence as a group. In some cases, when a new group, such as a courtroom jury, forms to accomplish a goal, the formation stage occurs relatively quickly and is appropriately considered the group's first stage. In other cases, however, the process of group formations occurs continually over a long period of time, such as when factory workers leave their jobs and are replaced by new employees, or when a fraternity or sorority recruits new members every year to replace the old ones who leave at the end of the school year. As the group members begin to get to know each other, they may find that they don't always agree on everything. In this stage, members may attempt to make their own views known, expressing their independence and attempting to persuade the group to accept their ideas. Storming may occur as the group first gets started, and it may reoccur at any point during the group's development, particularly if the group experiences stress caused by a negative event, such as a setback in progress toward the goal that they set out to accomplish. Assuming that the storming doesn't escalate too far, and the group will move into a stage in which the appropriate norms and roles of the group are developed, which allows the group to establish a routine and effectively work together. At this stage, the norming and performing stage, the individual group members may report great satisfaction and identification with the group, as well as a strong group identity. Groups that have effectively reached this stage have the ability to meet goals and survive challenges. Most groups eventually come to an end, which is the adjournment stage. In some cases, this is because the task for which the group was formed has been completed, whereas in other cases, it occurs because the group members have developed new interests outside of the group. In any case, because people who have worked in a group have likely developed a strong identification with the group or with the group members, the adjournment phase is frequently a stressful phase, and participants may actually resist this breakup. One of the earliest social psychological studies, Norman Triplett in 1898, investigated how bicycle racers were influenced by the social situation in which they raced. Triplett found something very interesting. The racers who were competing with other bicyclers on the same track rode significantly faster than bicyclers who were racing alone against the clock. This led Triplett to hypothesize that people perform tasks better when the social context includes other people than when they do the task alone. Subsequent findings validated Triplett's results, and other experiments have shown that the presence of others can increase performance on many of other types of tasks, such as jogging, shooting pool, lifting weights, and working on math and computer problems. The tendency to perform tasks better or faster in the presence of others is known as social facilitation. Although people sometimes perform better when they're in groups than they do alone, the situation is not that simple. Perhaps you can remember a time when you found that a task you could perform really well, such as giving a public presentation, playing the piano, or shooting basketball free throws, was not performed as well when you tried it with or in front of others. Therefore, it seems that the conclusion that being with others increases performance can't be entirely true, and that sometimes the presence of others can worsen one's performance. The tendency to perform tasks more poorly or slowly in the presence of others is known as social inhibition. To study social facilitation and social inhibition, Hazel Marcus in 1973 gave research participants both an easy task, which was putting on and tying their shoes, and an unfamiliar and therefore more difficult task, which was putting on and tying a lab coat that required you to tie it from the back. The research participants were asked to perform both tasks in one of three social situations: alone, with a Confederate who was watching them, or with a Confederate present who sat in the other room repairing a piece of equipment without watching the participant. As you can see on the slide, the graph of group task performance, Marcus found first that the difficult task was performed more slowly overall. But she also found an interaction effect, such that the participants performed the easy task faster, but the more difficult task slower when a Confederate was present in the room. Furthermore, it didn't matter whether the other person was paying attention to the performance or whether the other person just happened to be in the room working on another task. The mere presence of another person nearby influenced the performance. So we see in the graph we have the yellow representing the easy task and the blue representing the difficult task. On the x-axis we have the performance conditions, so alone, attentive audience, and inattentive audience. On the y-axis we have time in seconds. And we see in all three conditions that the difficult task took more time in seconds to perform. What we're really looking at is in the attentive and inattentive conditions, we see that the difficult task took more time than when the participant was alone. So we see that the presence of a person has a significant impact on the way people perform tasks. Working in groups has some benefits. Because groups consist of many members, group performance is almost always better than the performance of an individual acting alone. And group decisions are generally more accurate than the decisions of any one individual. Many heads are better than one in terms of knowledge, memory, physical strength, and other abilities. The group from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration that work together to land a human on the moon, a rock band whose members are writing a song together, or a surgical team in the middle of a complex operation may coordinate their efforts so well that it's clear that the same outcome could never have happened if it occurred with individuals if the individuals had worked alone, or in another group of less well-suited individuals. In these cases, the knowledge and skills of the individuals seem to work together to be effective, and the outcome of the group appears to be enhanced. When groups work together better than we would expect, given all the individuals who form them, we call this outcome a process gain. There's at least some data suggesting that groups may in some cases experience process gains. For instance, Weber and Hurdle in 2007 found in a recent meta-analysis that individuals can, in some cases, exert higher motivation when working in a group compared with working individually, which results in an increased group performance. This is particularly true for less capable, inferior group members who seem to become inspired to work harder when they're a part of a group. On the other hand, there are also costs to working in groups. For instance, the disastrous decision made by the team of advisors to President Kennedy that led to the unsuccessful invasion of Cuba in 1961, as well as countless other poor decisions. In these cases, the groups experience process losses. And a process loss is an outcome in situations in which groups perform more poorly than we would expect, given the characteristics of the members of that group. All right, folks, this is going to conclude my first video covering Chapter 11 in Principles of Social Psychology, looking at working groups, so performance and decision making. I hope you guys learned a thing or two, and I'll see you guys in the next video.